we have this extraordinary narrative that education adds to people's human capital, okay? And that somehow the second you start work, you become just, you learn nothing. This is completely the opposite of my experience. I learned just as much in my first 3 years at Ogilvy as I did at 3 years in university. The idea that working isn't educational and that the only way you can add to human capital or value is by putting people through these incredibly artificial sort of oblique intelligence tests, which aren't really very good.
You're looking at a dropout, so I didn't go as one.
The interesting thing, which must be true statistically, and it must be true simply because of Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg, is that the average Harvard dropout is almost certainly much richer than the average Harvard graduate, because even Zuckerberg and Gates on their own would make that a statistical necessity.
Yeah, I would not be surprised to hear that, because I think it also points to another characteristic that those individuals have that is conducive with success. We do have a closing tradition on this podcast, which is the last guest writes a question for the next guest.